Hello and welcome to another edition of CG Radio, everybody. I am your host, Cable Guy. How is everybody today out there in Radio Land? I am well, as I hope you are. So, as I promised, we are continuing the saga of the Just Incredible interview. It just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So in we go. Let's get Just Incredible on the horn. Hey, what's up, Just Incredible?
What's going on?
Not much. Thanks for taking the time to be back on the show again. Appreciate it a lot.
Hello?
Hey.
Having a hard time hearing anybody.
Hey, I'm here. I said thanks for taking the time to be on the show again. I appreciate it a lot.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Anytime. You know that.
All right, so
Anytime.
let's get right into these questions. So we'll pick up where we left off last time. Now, I'm sure you get this question.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you get this question quite a bit. In your professional opinion, what exactly killed E.C.W? Because I had a hard time wrapping my mind around this, because when I would come see you guys at the Flickinger Center, it was sold out every time.
Right. You know, what killed it was it got too big too quick, in my opinion. Paul was trying to compete with, to keep talent. Talent was, TV was big. We were big with fans. The buildings were full up until the end, in the 2,500 to 3,000 range. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, it was, Paul was paying guys a lot of money, pretty much, to stick around that he couldn't afford. Mm-hmm. To try to compete with WCW's guaranteed money, mm-hmm. to try to compete with WWE's money. Mm-hmm. And, guys like myself, Van Dam, Sabu, mm-hmm. Tommy Dreamer, many others were getting close to $30,000 a week, mm-hmm. In salary, which is, and working really limited dates, mm-hmm. comparatively to, the other companies. So, he overextended himself, and, I think that was really the downfall at the time, and also, at the time, putting up $500,000-$600,000 cash to do pay-per-views, mm-hmm. without seeing that return for several months, sometimes 8 months.
Right.
So there was a lot of money tied up that he didn't have access to, mm-hmm. When he needed it, and so it was just, it was too much too soon, I think, and it's a shame, because there really was a lot of, a lot of the market was lost, and was still yearning for the product. It's too bad.
Right, exactly, and and it's sort of a shame that it didn't get to work out a lot differently, because it seemed like the perfect storm.
It really was. E.C.W. was so unique, and still to this day, mm-hmm. so many people have tried to recreate the vibe, mm-hmm. and capture it. But man, it was punk rock. It was cool wrestling, mm-hmm. And also music to it. It was definitely a hip kind of a vibe to it. Mm-hmm. It was more of a rated R kind of wrestling, mm-hmm. and it was adult-orientated, adult themes, mm-hmm. Scantily clad women, rock and roll music, violence. Right. College kids were tuning it on late at night, and it was, kind of cool, mm-hmm. to watch wrestling at that time. And it was right in the middle of the Attitude Era too. So, it was just one of those things that just made sense, and it's too bad that nobody's had the vision to do it differently,
right?
In today's marketplace, and I'm curious. I'd be curious to see if there even is a marketplace for something like that today.
Okay.
But I guess we'll never know.
Okay. Well, that sort of leads to a follow-up question, but that's a little more down towards the end of the interview. But going back to E.C.W, there was this
age-old internet rumor on there that they were simply afraid to fire New Jack. Is that true?
I don't think so, no.
No.
No, not at all. No, man. I mean, one thing E.C.W. did, and Paul did it real well, was urban legends were way bigger than they actually were, and that was the mystique of it all.
Right.
As a performer, I was scared to death when I first walked through the doors, going into uncharted territory. But I realized it was all work, and guys were just there to have fun and make money and put out the best product they could. But in this age of, social media wasn't out there yet, and things were still, fairly, information was just differently, it was a little different to get information more traditionally, like the wrestling newsletters and so forth. So,
right.
Paul really worked on the mystique of it all, and you had to ride that wave of controversy,
Right. Well, even to this day, New Jack is still very, very convincing, I must say.
Oh, yeah, he's great, though. I mean, everybody that knows Jack likes Jack.
Right. Well, you see, because now going back to when you first entered E.C.W, it was relatively a little bit after the mass transit incident, and was like anything like that in the back of your mind, something like that could happen to you there?
No, not really. Not really. The stuff like that never really bothered me. I mean, Paul knew what I was there to do. I was not like a lot of those guys, and that got involved into that kind of violent stuff. I mean, I was there. Everybody had their niche, and Shane Douglas was a wrestler. Lance Storm. Other guys like that were wrestlers. Chris Candido, another one. Guys were wrestlers. Guys did the blood and the violence. Guys did high flying. I mean, everybody had their own little niche, and really, so I was never concerned about that, or quite frankly, I was never asked to do anything that I never said no to anything, because Paul kind of knew his boundaries with everybody. You know what I mean?
Oh, right. Now, one thing I noticed that was kind of a recurring theme in some of your matches, both past and somewhat present, the ones I've seen you do on the indies on YouTube, is first, people always seem to love throwing a bunch of chairs in the ring, or you like throwing chairs in the ring. Now, I was watching a match with you, Sandman, and Steve Carino. When the fans are throwing all these chairs in the ring, because it gets to a point you just lose count because how many chairs are being thrown. Were you ever worried like one was going to clunk you in the head or something, or did you ever get clunked?
No, not really.
Yeah.
We like to just call it controlled chaos. It was E.C.W. was so unique that fans really became a part of the matches and part of what we did in the ring. And we was just, sometimes we didn't know what was going to stick, so we would just try things. Right. And if the fans got into it, so be it.
Right.
I just remember the old days of guys like Terry Funk used to always do that, and Bruiser Brody. It's like, you never knew what was going to happen. Right. And when I always wanted that thing, that unpredictability. Then when I went into an arena, you never knew what was going to happen. And if I came your way, you better look out, kind of a thing. Just that mystique, that aura. Right. That today wrestling is way too safe. Right. In my opinion, it's supposed to be dangerous, and I don't mean physically dangerous. Like, we never hurt anybody, right? Not that I'm aware of, but just from an entertainment standpoint, we like to push that envelope, and I still, for many reasons, it isn't done anymore. But it's too bad, because it was really something different,
Right. Now, one thing I had a hard time finding was there ever any incidences of fans jumping the barriers like at WCW or WWE shows?
No, not really.
No.
Fans were actually really cool.
Huh.
No. Fans just wanted to have a good time, man, be part of the show. And they knew their place. Guys, we were one with the fans. Right. We really appreciated them. They appreciated us. It was it was a give and take with the fans. And no, it was I never had a problem with them, and I don't think a lot of the guys did. I mean, I'm sure there were isolated incidents here or there, but no, nothing I would know.
No, I definitely remember those E.C.W. shows being a lot of fun to go to because you got to participate in a lot of ways. So
yeah, they really were special. I'll tell you.
like they're like if I recall, like I don't know why I remember, there was a bunch of times I recall people yelling stuff to people like the Dudleys and something. They'll yell something right back to you. You know that's
Oh, absolutely,
that.
yeah.
You know that's
It was yeah, it's and it's just for me as a fan, and maybe it's I'm a little biased towards it, but where wrestling is today, in a lot of ways, it's grown to a good place. But in some ways, for me, it's way too vanilla. It's way too.
I get it.
The independent scene is very strong right now, and a lot of small companies are doing good business. But it's all very, very safe and very different. Than what I would personally like to see. I was more of we didn't invent hardcore wrestling by any means. I mean, guys like Dusty Rhodes were doing it a long time before we did it.
Right.
Abdullah the Butcher, Sabu's Uncle the Sheik, and
Right.
so many others. But we just, it was out of that era in wrestling where that cartoon kind of stuff was going on, that fans, and in Philadelphia, because Philly was always one of those places that were hard because fans were so smart and they liked aggressive hardcore wrestling, not necessarily the blood and guts stuff, but Philly was always known as a hardcore town, even before E.C.W's, so it was kind of the perfect storm.
Yeah, Philly by its reputation in general is a tough city. Like basically this. I was told any boxer, he could be 14-0 and 0-14, but if he's out of Philly, you're in for a fight. All it means is he has 14 fights under his belt, so don't let it fool you. And
right, yeah.
I was told that about that in New Jersey. So
yeah. I mean, but it really is. It's just one of those things, and I don't know. I'll be curious to see what's next because there's always an evolution in this business, and it always comes back.
Right.
And I'm curious to see what that's going to be going forward because we've seen it all. We've seen great wrestling, and that seems to be the trend now. Are the guys doing incredible moves and counters and that New Japan style of wrestling?
Right.
But unfortunately, with that on any given night is really, really difficult to do for 10, 15, 20 years to keep a pace like that. So, it's just going to be interesting to see where it all goes and where the business is going to head.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, did the E.C.W. reboot have a chance, or was it doomed from the start?
I was doomed from the start. Quite frankly, E.C.W. could have been the NXT of what the WWE is doing now. And, they wanted to use it for the name, for the recognition that it had and that it brought. But anything, E.C.W. was exactly what the WWE wasn't. We made a living off of making fun of WWE, of making fun of WCW, of being the exact opposite of what they were, that corporate thing. And when you're being run by the man, you just, really? You could say it's ECW all you want. You could play the music. You could see the wrestlers. You could have the entrance look the same, but it was the spirit and the vibe that was just never there.
Now,
because it's just you can't. It's like the Ramones, being corporate. Or something like that. It didn't work out.
Now,
it would never. The fans knew better.
Now, did you or any of the other E.C.W. originals they brought back? Did any of you ever bring this to their attention?
No, I think everybody at that point had, what are we going to do?
Right, I get it.
Vince knew what he had, and there was no changing anybody's mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think everybody had the right intention. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think anybody, Vince didn't go so far as to acquire it, launch it, to bury it.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the case. I mean, it actually lasted, I think, till 2009 as a brand. But it just became that offshoot of just their C show.
Right.
But it was no different than what what I mean. It was just it wasn't as advertised Extreme Championship Wrestling. So.
Oh, okay. Now, switching gears here a little bit, since you've been around the business as long as you have, did you ever know of anyone who was brave enough to rib Bradshaw?
Oh God, not really. No,
No.
not really. And the guys that would have aren't around today.
Right.
Not really.
Okay. Well,
They don't make them like that guy.
right. Okay. Well. Here's a question I got from my social media. Someone asked me, who will remain anonymous, do you think Bradshaw believed in angels?
Believe it or what?
In angels.
I don't even know what that means.
Like, do you believe in angels?
Oh hell. I don't know, man. That's the weirdest question I've ever heard. I don't even know how to respond to that.
You've never seen the movie Half Baked where the dude's sitting at the table full of badasses and he's like, any of you guys believe in angels? And they're like, yo, man, give me your fruit cocktail.
I believe it or not, I've not. No.
Oh.
God damn, you stumped me on that one, kid.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, well, switching gears again, all right? When I was doing some research, you know how it is on YouTube, you can get sidetracked easily. Why is it that there seems to be a black cloud that seems to hang over Ian Rotten? Like, everybody just doesn't have a good opinion of this man. And I'm about being fair with people.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He puts on pretty decent shows from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Ian Rotten, from what I've dealt with him, I think it's more on the business side. I mean, he's just kind of one of those promoters that, doesn't really pay what he says he's going to pay, and kind of shady.
Oh, wow.
In dealing with him, as a businessman. That's pretty much what I've.
Okay.
He screwed me on a couple of occasions, but
okay,
it's nothing major, but it's just what it is. I mean, he's just one of those guys, man, one of them old school cats that talks a good game and does the hustles, hustles the guys and hustles the boys, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I could see how he has a bad rap.
Okay, and also in doing my research, playing devil's advocate, okay, basically the only person that in a shoot interview that had really anything negative to say about you was Stevie Richards. And my question is, what is the deal? What's with where does this heat stem from?
It's pretty funny because Stevie and I've heard these things, but I always got along with Stevie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I did to him.
Right, and I'm not running him down. He seems like a reasonably nice guy. The fact he does all these shoot interviews for all the small guys, and it's just like it seemed out of character in a way. But I was just curious about.
I don't know what I did to piss him off. I've never done anything personal to him. I never buried him. I always liked him personally.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's his own worst enemy, and that proves it right there. Because not to really say anything about myself, that kind of sounds weird, but you ask anybody in the business, I'm one of the good guys.
Yeah.
I think 95% of people, you ask them about me, they're the boys. They'll tell you, he's a good dude. I've never intentionally hurt anybody.
Right.
Inside the ring, outside the ring, politically motivated, nothing. So,
yeah.
But Stevie was always very paranoid. He was his own worst enemy. Loads of talent.
Yeah.
Good-looking guy, good shape.
Right.
Works hard.
Mm-hmm.
But he judges people, I guess, and I guess he judged me. You
Right.
know, I don't know. I've never judged people. I've known a lot of guys and, you know, done a lot of things. And, you know, I guess I'm more honest and upfront about it. I'm not afraid to talk about it.
Okay.
Because you know, there are very few guys that can, honestly, you know, if you knew what I know about a lot of people, it wouldn't seem so odd. I'm just very forthcoming, sometimes to a fault,
Right.
of admitting what I've done. And, you know, I'm really all not that special or different from anybody else. But I don't know what the heat is, and it's a shame because I like the guy.
Right. Right.
Oh, well, he cares. Hey, you know what? That's his deal. That's his problem. He carries it. I don't.
Right.
I don't think about him that much.
Right. I
Don't
hear.
worry about it.
I hear you. Okay. Now.
Too bad for Stevie.
Right. Right. Yeah. You've actually been really good to me this whole time. So and I appreciate that a
I
lot.
try. I mean, you know, yeah, thank you, man. You've been
So
good to me, too.
so moving along here. Do you have any crazy Iron Sheik encounters / stories? Because that guy's a trip on the indies.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. You know what? I really don't. I really don't. It's a shame. You know, he kind of intimidates me. Guys that are that crazy intimidate me in some way. You know, and I respect him and all, but no, I don't. I just, you know, always paid my respects to him and stayed far and clear of that train wreck, you know, because he's just he's a ticking time bomb, that guy.
Right, right.
But he's funny as hell, man. He knows what he's doing, too. He's
Right.
smart. He knows people look at him as this crazy guy, so he plays it up, you know. He knows what he's doing. He knows how he's getting over these days, you know.
Oh, yeah, because you could tell during some of his, like, you know, I wouldn't even call them hate-filled rants, but you can tell during some of his rants where he's just bashing everyone and everything, he's smiling during it because people are asking him, like, why do you feel this way? And it's like, you know, it's just like, you can tell it's all off the cuff and he's just saying whatever comes to.
It's just, you know, he does it to get a rise. You know what, man? You can't, and then kind of go back on the Stevie Richards thing. I think he got hurt a lot by a lot of guys, and I know he wasn't a fan of the clique. And I think there's a lot of issues with him and jealousy, and he was very, very paranoid.
Right.
He took the business way too seriously, and he felt that he served the company for 7 or 8 years, you know, worked really hard, and I don't think he felt like he got anything in return for his time served. But, you know, you can't take yourself that seriously, and Sheik's a great example of not taking a completely ridiculous business so freaking serious.
Right.
You know, I certainly take my work seriously and so forth, but man, you can't. All I could do is control what I can control, and unfortunately, you know, we always can't write our own stories, and you know, see, you know what I mean. You can do what you could do, and but I think a lot of guys take it personally. But Sheik's one of those guys that gets it and just has fun with it, you know.
Right.
We're still talking about him today, so he's doing something right.
Right. Yeah, you know, it's good for him, you know. Okay, so while we're, you know, moving along here, how come X Factor didn't last longer than it did? And / the second part of the question, and the second part of the question is, who chose the Uncle Cracker theme? I've always been curious.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't know, man. You know, Pac and I are good friends. We still talk all the time. And I don't know. I think it was right around that time when WCW got bought under, and you know, just so much of an influx of talent, and I think they wanted to do like NWO thing with him, and you know, tag team. You know, they gave us a little bit of a shove right off the bat, but it didn't really go anywhere, and they were always wanting to turn Albert on us, and you know, it just all got, you know, messed up, really, because there were so many guys coming in, and they really didn't know who they were writing for and what they were doing. It was just, we really did get lost in the shuffle, which is a shame. And the Uncle Cracker thing was my idea.
Okay.
Because I'm friends with a couple of guys over in Kid Rock's camp, and Matt, which is Uncle Cracker, is a good friend of mine. His brother actually worked for me. He was my agent at the time.
No kidding.
And he put out this record, his record, and we said, hey, man, let's just do something that'll get us heat and something completely off
Mm-hmm.
off the beaten trail and something unconventional.
Yeah.
And I think we did that. It was something certainly unique and something that people are like, oh, God, really? But that was the point.
Yeah. Yeah. Because now that you explained the whole method behind the madness, I'm like, and because that was my reaction, like, oh no, they're here, and then
Exactly, and but and it was also cool because we didn't have a WWE song. We were just trying to make our own little statement of, this is who we were, and it's a shame because it was ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
And if the machine got behind it, it could have been something. But it was cool while it was there, and we did the best we could with it.
Right. Okay, now shifting gears a little bit here. You know how yesterday we were talking about like the weekend warrior wannabe promoters? What is the craziest indie promoter anecdote that you just have off the top of your head? And I'm talking like you just walk in the place and you just like shake your head and you're like, all right, screw it, they're paying me.
Oh yeah, when they hand you a script with like times and interviews and like really detailed, like you're going to do a fucking WWE pay-per-view or something.
Oh.
Instead of wrestling. Yeah, it's really funny. I mean, for me, when you run an independent wrestling show, it should be 5-6 matches.
Mm-hmm.
And they should be all very basic and entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And each match should serve a purpose. You should always have a tag team match, a ladies match. Because women's wrestling has come so far, and there's so many great athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So there should be a ladies match. Usually a special attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of regular matches, maybe a stipulation, a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The tag team match I would put on right before intermission. That usually, is a hot match, a traditional good long tag team match.
Mm-hmm.
That's built well that you go on, bring the fans into intermission. Then you have your popcorn match, which could be 7-8 minutes, almost like a glorified squash, or get the fans back into their semi-main event, which could be whatever, the ladies, or nowadays the ladies are closing the show, so depending on who you're booking, and your main events, and stipulation match somewhere underneath and stuff like that. I mean, it's just basic. You don't need to do all these formats and interviews and segments. I mean, fans go to wrestling to enjoy it. They don't go to wrestling to see bad acting. They want to see decent wrestling in short increments. And unfortunately, indie shows give them way too much.
Right.
And I don't mean good stuff. They give them just way too much.
Well,
keep it short, keep it sweet, 2-hour show, man. Keep them entertained because you want them to come back. You don't want them to be looking at their watch like, oh my God, we're still in the building at 11:30 at night. Well, starts at 8, get them out of there by 8:30 or 10:30. I mean.
Right. Well, see, the way that you do it when I've seen, like, you do the indies, it's like you come down, you do your thing around the ring, you maybe cut a 30-second promo, if that, and then you're off.
Well, yeah, I mean, being that, traditionally, wrestling has not been the same for, it's not the same as it was 20 years ago where, you're at the same building once a month where feuds are, not normally anyways, feuds are going into the next card and et cetera. So usually indie promotions, for the most part, not all, I mean, there are exceptions, of course, but most are just cold shows with guys who aren't established.
Right.
So really you have to do a lot of establishing during the show.
Right.
So you got to keep it very black and white. And the guys that do run every 3 weeks or once a month in the same facility, they have the privilege of storytelling going into the next event and the next event. So there's different ways to go about it, but
right.
Really, fans aren't, you're not trying to do double turns and twists, and it should be about, it should be a basic goal that, you're a competitor, you're trying to win a match, And that's pretty much, I mean, wrestling is not supposed to be that hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's usually a champion for
Okay.
the league, and everybody's fighting to get a shot at that championship.
Right.
And the matches that go underneath it should count as to where you're, you know, that's why tournaments are so simple
Mm-hmm.
and they work, like especially at NXT level, the Mae Young Classic,
Mm-hmm.
the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic thing that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You get a bunch of teams or a bunch of competitors, you put them in brackets, and you let the talent do their work in the ring. It's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
But then fans could have fun with it and kind of, oh, yeah, well, this match could possibly happen, and that could be cool, and, you know, it really works itself out. And there's a common goal that you want to win this tournament. So
Right.
every match is important. So then the winners and losers count. Very simple. Wrestling is a really simple formula. We've diluted it and complicated it in so many ways, unfortunately, but it really isn't that hard.
Right.
That's why UFC, although UFC is not a worked sport,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it works because guys win and lose, and, you know, they want that opportunity to get a title shot. You know, you know, and move up, just like guys watch the NFL for winners and losers to see who got the better record going into playoffs and brackets and who's going to be the champion. You know, it works in major sports for centuries. And wrestling was supposed to be a sport, you know, although worked, concept should not be different than, you know, storylines and all that stuff, soap opera style stuff. But, you know, whatever, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, the reality has always been we're trying to win a match.
Okay. Okay.
So, you know,
Right. Right.
indie promoters should keep it simple, you know.
Right. Right. Well, it's one way to go about it, I say. Now, when you're traveling, especially when you're out in my neck of the woods, the Western New York area, which do you prefer, Tim Hortons or Dunkin' Donuts?
Dunkin' Donuts. I hate Tim Hortons.
Oh, come on, man. I'm drinking.
I know. Well, I don't get Tim Hortons over here at all.
I know.
And
They just
and
made.
I got my fill of Timmy Hortons when I was in Canada, so that's where I have to tap out to the Timmy Hortons. There's many a night I've had Tim Hortons, and it's not been good. Not a good look.
Okay, so who are the best guys to travel on the road with? Who do you always have the most fun with?
Most fun?
Yep.
I would say guys like X-Pac, guys like, believe it or not, Lance Storm and I had a great time on the road together. We're total opposites, but we worked. We made each other laugh.
Right.
Guys like who else was fun on the road? Balls was fun. Sean and Scott. Shawn Michaels, Scott Hall, definitely fun, and Road Dogg.
Right.
He was a great guy to travel with. We had a lot of good times on the road. So those are my guys.
Nice. Okay. Now, the last question, but finally not least, and this has been the question that's been plaguing me for months and months, and I still have not been able to solve this mystery. Now, I know this was a bit before your time there, but you knew some of the players involved in this, so maybe you could shed some light on this mystery. Do you know what happened to Matilda? Like, what was her fate? Did the Wild Samoans eat her like they implied, or what?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't even remember that storyline, to be honest.
Well,
I remember the poor dog.
Yeah.
And but no, I do not know.
Like I
that
bought
is a hell of a question, and unfortunately, I do not have that answer.
and it's like right before I did this interview, I read Dynamite Kid's book in like 4 days, and he's annoyingly vague about what happened to Matilda. Like, and the thing is that in Bret Hart's book, his account of Dynamite, of the way Dynamite's, Kid's tenure in WWE, it's a lot different than the way he tells the story, to say the least. But that's a whole other.
I'm sure it is.
That is a whole other podcast right there. The discrepancies in their book.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'm sure. Oh yeah,
Because
definitely.
some of the stuff he says about Bret Hart, quite frankly, it is just so far out of character. I just wouldn't like I would believe so many other things before I would believe these things that he said. No offense, Dynamite, if you're
Yeah,
listening, because I was a huge Dynamite
yeah,
Kid
right.
fan.
No doubt.
You know.
No doubt.
All right.
No doubt.
All right.
Uh,
Well, that's gonna do it for this time, and we're gonna be having you on again real soon for the follow up to the follow up to the follow up. We just have to keep going here.
Always a pleasure to. Hey, man, it's always a pleasure. And next time, hopefully, we'll have some new juicy stuff, and maybe next time we can talk about the documentary that we're in the process of shooting right now, which is going to be a big part of my life, and we'll tell the fans all about that on the next one.
All right. Perfect. Great. I'll talk to you next time.
All right, man.
All right. Bye.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Bye now.
All right, and there you have it, everybody. Just incredible. So, once again, we've covered quite a bit in this interview, and he will be back for another follow-up. We got to keep going with this. It's getting better and better. We have to delve deeper into this, everybody. So, until next time, I'm Cable Guy signing off. Let's all be nice to each other out there.
This is a Chicky Beat production.